Hello and welcome to the Filmmakers podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie films to studio films, high-end TV, and everything in between. How to make them, how to get them made, and how not to royally F them up, in our humble opinion. I'm Dom Lenoir, and joining us today is our dynamic duo, Connor Buru and Francis Annan, for our specials on the new Roses film, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman. There we go. I can't say his name without saying Cucumber Pat. But here we are. How are you both doing?
Yeah, getting there, surviving. I think I've moved house more times than I can remember, so my muscles are all aching, but I'm fighting fit.
I clawed Francis out of the deepest, darkest pits of removaling his house today. But that's the dedication to the craft. How are you doing, Connor?
Dedication.
Yes, very good, Dom. Very well, can't complain. How was the safari? Did you manage to spot yourself some leopards?
Well, everything except the leopard. But we saw cheetahs instead, which I think definitely counts. They're both spotted. But yeah, it was amazing. I mean, like the light out there, the landscape, the friendly people. I mean, just being like less than a couple of foot away from an active lion is a very sort of spectacular thing to witness, and the giraffe.
Yeah, I saw the shots, man. They look like it was like watching some David Attenborough stuff. It's wicked.
Thank you very much. I became the resident photographer for all the safari groups that were recruiting me for pictures and pulling them off as their own. But more than happy to
see Dom. Always hustling. He's always working the angles. He's always making something, Dom.
Spot footage to sell that off. Yeah. HD.
So, I mean, just a shout out for you both. I was saying to Giles and Tobias, who edits the podcast. You two were thrown in at the deep end probably less than a month ago. Connor had done like one or two interviews with me a long time ago on the podcast. Francis was reasonably new to the experience, and you've kind of bonded together and taken on some really big podcasts and done a fantastic job. And no one would be the wiser to not think that you were either lifelong friends or co-hosts extraordinaires that have had years of training on the podcast. So very well done to you for your efforts to date.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think I remember one of the actors, we had 10 or 15 minutes with him, and as he was walking out, he said to the PA ladies, those two guys were amazing. Really good questions. And I kind of prodded Connor and said, yes, that's going on the CV. So yeah, it's good. It's been fun and actually quite inspiring, like from a filmmaker perspective, to hear these people talking. A lot of the similarities, it's brilliant just to hear that, right, they have the same, it's the same in the expensive seats as the cheap seats sort of thing. So yeah, it was good.
Very good. Was that Sir Ben?
I think it was. Did you call Sir Ben some actor guy?
Well, I don't know if we're allowed to osmotically kind of like transmit the different ones. We're doing the Roses sound, but yes, it was. I was trying to be discreet, but Sir Ben, it was Sir Ben.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and cast in one of my movies soon. But anyway,
there we go. I mean, you've got a route in now. Saying in the group earlier, we'll have to have an end of year dynamic duo doubles with tennis. Me and Giles and you two, because you're shining so well at the moment on the podcast.
It's all for you, bro.
That's it.
It's all for it's for the common good, and you're doing a great job of it.
Well, you guys have been so busy. Obviously, Dom, you've been working on lots of projects and you've been away on the safari, nonetheless, and Giles as well, off making films, and that's what it's all about. Keeping busy, making stuff happen off your own back.
It's very true. This is very true. And your taking over has been absolutely invaluable. Let's talk about our guests today. Who have we got on the roster for Roses?
So we were very excited to talk to Tony McNamara. Now, for those of you that don't know about Tony, you should. His work is unbelievable. You might know him from Poor Things or The Favourite. There's some of his recent films. He's an Oscar nominee, BAFTA winner, and just a really good guy. And so humble, so down to earth, and we learned a lot talking to him. We also had Jay Roach, who's a legendary director. He's directed some of my personal favorite comedies ever. The Austin Powers films, the Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, and even films like Trumbo. So he's just a really well-versed director. And I think it really sets him up perfectly for something like The Roses, because it's traversing comedy and drama. So yeah, another really great gent and just really down to earth as well.
Fantastic. What did we talk about on this week's episode?
Well, we had a bit of a chat about the writing process. Oftentimes, independent filmmakers, we have to do it ourselves or writer directors. And you always wonder, under the hood, how do they write? Do they, outline, beat sheet the heck out of it? We hear about the Coen brothers on the other hand, who literally just start writing. Tarantino just starts writing, no guide. And so we chatted a bit about that. Obviously, McNamara is a top writer, and he refreshingly said that he at the end he writes quite quickly, but he gave us a bit of a process in terms of the slightly messy approach that he takes actually beforehand. So that was interesting. It was nice to hear that there are top writers who are not massively, save the cat, beat sheets, kind of that's the way to do it. They're kind of feeling it as they go, stumbling in the dark. I think Aaron Sorkin said something similar. So it was nice to hear a bit about that process, which is, it's not the actual ideas, but it's the process behind which you work. We chatted a bit about their collaboration. I think Jay had read an early draft. And so between that early draft and what it ended up being, there was a few iterations, and it seems like it was quite a good process. So we chatted a little bit about how they collaborated together. Connor asked a great question about, a broader question about pursuing right ideas, so many different things, news clippings and bits of TV, articles and remakes and books. And, how does one know what are the kind of itinerant kind of qualities that make, one project and one kind of idea more filmable than another? And so they gave us one or two thoughts on that with regards to the Roses, but also just with regards to previous projects that they had worked on. And yeah, obviously, comedy is a specific thing. This is a very screwbally, slapsticky type comedy. And we've got one of the top comedy directors in Hollywood. So we just chatted a little bit about, what are some of the kind of comedy chops that he's learned, and what are some of the things that he went into detail in one or two things. Some was obvious, some was a bit more, okay, that's interesting. And yeah, they were really warm. As soon as we walked in the room, big handshakes, they really wanted to chat. And so it was great to hear their perspective on, those things.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, when you go into the room, that's what you want. You don't want sort of stone face, I'm here for another press junket. You're like, you want people that they're excited about their movies and excited to tell you about what their process and experiences was. And it's always nice when they sort of connect with you and you get that moment of camaraderie and sharing in the industry. And anything else to add, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, the things that have stuck out to me from memory are losing your mind in prep. And it was actually quite reassuring to hear that even these top directors, top writers, they still face the same pressures that we all do. They still have some self-doubt. They still have those moments of thinking, what am I doing here? This is not working. This is not coming together in the way I wanted. I'm feeling like maybe a bit of imposter syndrome. So I think when you see someone who is at the very top of the industry, still going through that, it just makes you realize that, this is a natural part of the process, and actually learn to maybe not enjoy that part of the process, but accept it and be aware of it. So when it does rear its ugly head, you're not thrown off course by it. I also enjoyed, it's a bit of a standard one we've heard many times, but I think we need to really take heed of the fact that they really went into focusing on the craft. Don't get too caught up in the business side, worrying about trends and like what's hot right now. It's like focus on being the best you can be. And obviously, it's good to always have an awareness of the business elements, but don't get too fixated on that. Write what you're passionate about and just get better and better yourself and your craft. We also had a little bit of a chat about balancing producing and directing, which, something that Jay manages to do. And actually, that's a bit of a reoccurring theme. The directors we've been talking to recently quite often seem to be producing. And we dive into a little bit, a few of the reasons as to why they've decided to do that. Obviously, it's more workload, it's more pressure on them. But yeah, there's a lot of good reason behind that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I always sort of do it out of necessity.
Yeah, exactly.
Or for your own projects, because I mean, I think at the end of the day, like one of the main sort of takeaways, like beyond the broader term of what that means, is just there's a certain level of, if you just do the very bare minimum of what your film is and then expect a producer to do all the heavy lifting before you've really thought about any of the other surrounding business assets or the team or any of those things, it means they have to do everything when you approach them. Whereas if you're doing a lot of it yourself, you're either saving money or thinking about budget things or creative decisions that might make it easier for someone else to board.
And it's a bit like writing as well. You know, we don't tend to have, I've got 75 grand in my pocket to pay for a top level writer to do a draft. You know, you have to just crack on and do it yourself. And I think the amount of stuff that you learn producerially, as opposed to waiting for someone, when the budgets get to a certain level, you can't, push it all up a hill yourself. But, even then, a lot of the initial work, which is relatively producerial, you learn tons about sales, and pre-sales, about casting process. You meet, the whole gamut of things, even the back end in terms of distribution and so on. And that makes you a stronger, more 360 filmmaker. So yeah, it's pretty helpful.
Fantastic. Well, without much further ado, three roses looking at each other here. Should we get into the episode? We'll have a quick debrief afterwards. Here is the roses.
Tony, Jay, welcome to the Filmmakers podcast.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
We're a podcast all about filmmaking, how to get made, the process behind the scenes. And we're absolutely thrilled to have you here with us today to talk about your new film, The Roses.
Thank you.
We had a wild time.
Oh, great.
It was dark, it was witty, unexpected, but it had this emotional truth at its core.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That's a high compliment.
Just for those who haven't watched or, kind of watched a trailer or anything, you just give us a quick overview of the story, what it's about.
Oh, you're making me do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Better at it.
Not at all. I mean, it's really a comedy about marriage, about two people who love each other, and it's like, and they're desperately trying to stay married and don't quite have the skill set to actually bring it off. And it's a sort of mix of, ambition versus, your intimate relationship and your ego and how you're trying to balance all those things.
Yeah.
As two prolific filmmakers, writer, director, what is it about an idea or a concept that makes you think this one's worth pursuing? This one's worth me giving my sweat, my time, my energy, my blood. What is that thing that you're looking for?
A couple of years worth too.
Yeah, true, right?
That's a really good question. And it's, the more films you make, the higher the bar is. But when I got it, it was already mostly developed with Benedict and Olivia in mind and Tony's great script. And it had such a fantastic, dark sense of humor, but also a kind of commitment to the relationships that I don't know. I was moved by it. I found myself getting very emotional about it in the end because I wanted it to work out for them, and they keep trying the whole way through. And yet it's freaking hilarious. There were scenes that ranked among any great individual moments that I'd ever worked on. Like then, and there's a long dinner scene where they bring in all their American friends, and the American friends that envy them but don't know that it's a marriage that is in a really seriously serious jeopardy place. So yeah, it's script and cast, and it was irresistible.
And to you, Tony?
Yeah, I think choosing it's like Jay says, it gets a little harder because you're much more precious of your time as you get older and what you're going to invest in. But I think for me, it's usually a challenge screenwriting wise. Usually it's like, I don't quite know how I do this. And if I think I'm not sure how to do it, I'm quite interested in trying. And with this, I know Olivia and Benedict the whole thing started with them wanting to work together, and then Searchlight, and then coming up with this and coming to me. And then I went, I don't want a remake. And they didn't really want that. They wanted, what would you do? And I kind of racked my brain and thought, I've got those two. And they're great verbal masters, and I love language. So I could make a much more sort of remarriage comedy, Preston Sturges, those kind of people. And it's about marriage. And then it is like, what would I do? How would I bring it off? Because it's hard. It's over 20 years. All these screenwriting challenges that are sort of not interesting to anyone but screenwriters. But they're interesting to me because I'm like, how would I bring that off in that technical way? And
yeah, so on that point, how do you tend to, generally speaking, approach a first draft? Is it a kind of vomit draft thing? Or is it boards and you're very meticulous?
No, I'm meticulous. No one would use that word about me. I might tell my wife you asked me that question just so I can hear her laugh.
Yeah.
But no, normally I spend a lot of time just writing lots of pages, and eventually I try and work out just a couple of really basic things. I try to get it as simple and basic as I can about what they want and who they are. And then once I feel I've got that, then I do boards, then I do a beat sheet. So I am pretty methodical I have a process that I follow.
And that's literally just random scenes out of sequence, just a cool scene here and there.
It's just anything really. I'll just write randomly for weeks and weeks, and then at some point I'll think, I know what I'm talking about. And then I'll go to a whiteboard and I'll whiteboard it, and then I'll type up the beats, and then I'll do the script. And the script I write really quickly, but all the rest of it is hard. All the rest of it is the work, and then the script is the fun. Really.
Yes. And working together, I know the script was at a certain stage, but were there rewrites, and how was your kind of day-to-day script work together, if there was any?
Yeah, I mean, always like we met and the script was in a sort of good place, and then we met and we just started evolving it and just working together on it, and we clicked straight away. And the whole process, and I was on set almost all the time. So
and in post, we always show time.
Yeah, so we never stopped.
Yeah,
I think that's what comedy people love, is they're a bit neurotic, and so you're always trying to make it better, and you're always asking yourself those questions, and I think that's what we did, and that was sort of the fun of it. And then
two heads are better than one sometimes. Yeah.
And we had a lot of collaborators too, and some of the studio notes were really helpful. We had great producers. The producers are Benedict and Olivia's partners, and then my partner Michelle Graham, and we got great notes all along. We were always torn about how far to go in the third act, and that actually evolved in a really great way towards the end, because we were at first trying to be sort of almost too physical and whatever, and Tony, and I've seen this happen in multiple films where you go, no, let's go smaller instead of bigger, and get more about these two characters and more about what they would say to each other in the middle of the craziest kind of resentment-driven conflict. And that Tony came up with later in the process, and it was really, it was really fun to watch. Then we also, by bringing in people like Andy and Kate, and who have interesting ideas about character design, Tony was always folding that stuff in as we worked together in prep. But the original script was amazing. So it's so fun to just riff off something that's so well crafted from the beginning.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do the actors on a script like this, a production like this, you've got some brilliant comedic actors in this, and actually obviously Benedict and Olivia, didn't know they were quite as funny as they are, especially Benedict. I think it was brilliant to see him in this role. Right.
Yeah.
Do you let them sort of riff a little bit? Is there a bit of improv, or do they stick mostly to the script?
A little bit, but they were so respectful of the script, because it's Tony McNamara's script, but they were also generous with each other. And because when you bring in Kate and Andy, there's going to be some stuff once in a while. And I would often turn to Tony to make sure he was cool with that. And he was like, yeah, you're right. This is good. So they
were great. We went, and even from the first time they came in, we started talking straight away. And then they would have ideas and I would have it was just such a fun collaboration, because they were so respectful about it. And they were very, they're so smart about rhythm, and the script's very hardcore rhythm. So they were very conscious of not screwing the rhythm on a scene.
Yeah, and they would always ask Tony to not just let them run with it, but to rewrite it back into
They would have an idea that was like this, and then I would go off, we shifted that, we could make that rhythm work and put it in there. So that was just a fun joy for me. I mean, they're wild card geniuses.
There's a great scene with Alison Janney where she's playing the divorce lawyer, and she's so good, and it's just this one crazy, long, really excellent dialogue scene. But Andy and Kate both wanted to help have the relationships, be surprisingly moving, as an emotional experience, and to pay off kind of. And Andy goes into this long run about how maybe you guys should try harder. And it was an example of Tony wrote that, but it was off of a bunch of ideas. So that was a great part of the evolution. Yeah. Same with Kate.
Same with Kate. That was kind of like, we had the read through, and we both felt like Kate didn't have an ending. So then I wrote her coming back, and then she had some ideas in that scene and improv something on the day that her and I sort of twisted up a bit. So it was just a really good experience.
Yeah. It's a great collaboration.
Yeah, it's weird because like that lawyer scene, for example, there's something almost universal about when they suddenly mask off and they start chatting as if they're friends, and you go, oh, there's an artifice to this whole thing. It was just very, everyone can understand that. And another one was the whale. I don't know why. I just, how did that come about? 'Cause I just got, it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, the ethereal nature of it, the poetic nature. What was that about?
I think I was just trying to like find something. I don't know. It's not that conscious. I just wanted to not go back. I knew they'd fought a lot. And so there was a rhythm thing to it of like the audience needs a breath. They need quiet. But I also am right at the point where he has to decide. And then I was like, how's he going to decide? And when he goes jogging, and then I kind of went, they're on the coast, maybe you see. And then I was like, oh, he sees a whale. And that it has a moment, which is like, we all have, which is like, what are we doing with our lives? And so it was like, and I think people have that. Often people get divorced because they're like, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. And so I needed something. And also I'm always looking for things that can be seen. It's like their jobs. An architect, you see a house, food, so that it's cinematic. So it gives the director something to work with. And so that was sort of that idea.
I loved how heartbreaking it was. I won't spoil what happens, but you never feel that they're more separate than what happens during the whale moment. It takes him somewhere and it's not closer, so it's so
well, it's awful as well because it's like when you realize your spouse has stopped sharing things with you that are meaningful.
That's what I'm getting.
It's awful.
Yeah. It felt so truthful in that moment. Like, why didn't you tell me you saved the whale? It's like,
exactly.
something you would normally share, but it was just a really poetic way of just showing the decline of the relationship.
Yeah.
But one thing we were talking about as well is just how well balanced between you've managed to make this. Like, I found myself constantly flipping allegiances between like who was in the right and who was the wrong. I could relate to both characters, kind of despise both of them, but kind of love them both and understood. It's a really hard, I don't know if it's a tone or just a balance to strike. So if you could talk on that a little bit.
I think it's in the script.
Yeah, I think even through we were involved, we were making that sure of that. I made a decision early on, no one was to blame. This was just life.
There's no villain.
No, there's no villain. He's not worse than her. It's just like people who can't quite make it work. And I felt like I've seen lots of couples like that. And so I was interested in this is how he should have done this or she should have done that. They both should have done something better, as we all should. So I wasn't, and then it was just keeping the audience so they didn't, which Jay and those guys did such a great job of keeping it even and not feeling like you're going to blame someone at the end. You're just going to wish they either got together or...
I think it's humor too. Olivia's just so freaking funny, but I think Benedict is hilarious. And there's a few moments when he says, how about a 3-hour circular argument that goes nowhere? And the idea that people can be so dysfunctional but still make each other laugh, that's so, to me, so moving and makes it all the more tragic if it doesn't go well, because there's it takes effort to get each other to laugh, and when they stop, like the whale scene is one of the places where they stop trying to make each other laugh, and you're going, this doesn't look good.
This is serious because even in the opening scene, you have that moment of like slating each other, and then it's like they still have that joy.
They're bonded by it.
So, Jay, you've directed some of our most beloved comedies ever. Do you have any tips? A lot of our audience are actually filmmakers themselves. Do you have any tips that you've picked up along your journey of how to direct a good comedy? Is there any little nuggets you can share?
It's always get the best script and just cast the heck out of it. Get the funniest people. And another thing that I think not everybody is aware of is just how valuable it can be to share your post-production version early. Like I love to screen. Tony knows this. And we got so much out of showing it to audiences and evolving and say, oh, I didn't realize they were getting this. And they're howling at this part, and like, what are we losing at this? Like, the therapy scene wasn't always the beginning of the movie. That came in once we realized, oh my God, that plays through the roof, and it has all the tone of, in a way, the whole rest of the movie, because they're being so tough with each other, they're being so profane, and the therapist played by Tony's amazing wife, Belinda Bromelo, is not getting it at all.
Yeah.
She's the couples therapist. So throwing that up front came out of just realizing, oh, the audience needs a way into this, and that kind of screen it. And you're afraid to at first, but like I always say, fail early. If you're going to fail with the audience, just fail early enough that you can keep working on it to figure out how to get them back.
That's good advice.
That's very good advice. And props to your wife. She's hilarious. So just deadpan, it's really, really good. Some people have referred to this as a kind of a screwball comedy, or that kind of genre. Do you reference other films in a certain genre? Do you kind of keep yourself very blinkered?
I do. I guess I do a little bit, but I really just try to become the kind of preacher of the story, but I recognized the influences. The screwball is, I found out about that term because I always associated it before with slapstick. But screwball comes from a baseball analogy, which just means a weird kind of pitch, right? That it's kind of come at you in some way that you didn't see coming. And it's just funny that they use that. That some film critic somewhere decided to describe a comedy that way. But that is how Tony's script comes at you, especially once we threw in these wild card cast members. You think you could see it coming, and it becomes inevitable by the time you've experienced it, but it comes at you in such an unpredictable way. It's better than expected. So we always tried to go for that.
Very good.
So Jay, you were producing as well on this.
Of course, yeah.
So is that something you always tend to do? How is that? Because for us, sometimes I think indie filmmakers, they're looking for the promised land of being able to step away from producing so they can focus fully on directing.
Where is that promised land? Direct me to it. I'm ready. I do throw myself in as producer sometimes just so I'm for sure going to stay at the table the whole way through, in post-production. Sometimes if you're just the director, there can be another kind of pressure. And so having a little bit of the clout with myself and my producing partner, Michelle Graham. But in this one, there were so many other great producers that Benedict and Olivia's partners were fantastic, and Searchlight was great too. So I didn't need to be a producer as much on this one. But I do often try to keep myself at the table by calling myself a producer.
Yeah. And in terms of the directing part, everyone's been saying it's very cinematic. It's beautiful. Some of my favorite shots were those beautiful little lapping wave shots. Again, the poeticism is just really, and then back to it, Yeah. Are you, in terms of your process, do you storyboard a lot? Are you finding it on set? Are you kind of more loose and free or more structured? How you work?
It depends on the scene, really. Like the whale scene is a great example, carefully storyboarded, partly because there's a fair amount of visual effects, the collapse of the museum. But I storyboard less and less on performance-driven scenes. I used to do it to try to imagine what the right shots are. But I find if you just stay loose on the morning of rehearsal, the performances are freer, and that tells you where the camera should be. You can't imagine it, and you don't want to be puppeteering people to fit storyboards. I still try to shot list and think through ideas, but I don't try to draw all the scenes unless there's an action component or a visual effects component.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the museum collapsing. Have you two had any experiences like that with work? Is there times where it feels like on set it's all going wrong, or maybe the draft, it just feels like, oh, what have I done here? I backed myself into a corner.
Well, yes.
Of course.
It's in my dreams. I don't have any other kind of dreams except anxiety dreams. I wish that I could have a flying dream or a sex dream, or if I have a sex dream, it's some horrible result of getting caught in a certain situation.
Charles is down.
But I don't know how to think other than what's the worst possible thing that could happen. And we all have disasters. We had some challenging rain out days where we had to rush to compensate, but we got really lucky. Yeah. So it's more, I think it makes me more neurotic, but also better at it because I am pre-envisioning disaster all the time.
What was your Guillermo thing?
Oh, well, Guillermo del Toro told me once that every movie's natural state is to blow up, is to not happen or blow apart. And it is partly the producing director thing. I mean, that's your biggest challenge, is just like everyone's could be pulled and could get upset or could get and to one, not be afraid of that conflict and just go at it, but two, try to be the benign cult leader who gets everyone to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. It makes sense because you're basically taking life, which is chaotic and scene by scene, and you're trying to repackage it on a set, and try to have control over it. So it's going to always want to
hold together,
pull it apart. Yeah.
But I will share that when I started doing this one mantra, it changed how I was coming out, because I came up through being a camera person and an editor and a sound person and worrying about things that were the shot design, which are all really important. But if you don't say to yourself, script and cast all the time, you can lose track. And when you have an amazing script and a cast, and that includes keeping the cast surrounded by people who will help them be their best, not just how you cast the movie. So it's a good focusing kind of mantra.
And how about yourself, Tony? Do you still find yourself with your experience, do you still find yourself in these dead ends and moments of writer's block, or just feeling like it's not coming together the way you hoped?
Yeah.
Some people say it doesn't exist.
We were saying before, like, you feel like you're learning what's sad about it is every new project you feel like, I seem to have learned nothing.
Yeah.
and you're in it going, I've written a script this year where I was like, I don't know how to do this. And my wife's like, yes, you do. I'm like, I really don't. But it's that thing. It's part of the process. I think she told me something to help me, which was, I think Charlie Kaufman had said, at some point he realized the struggle is the point, and so occasionally this year I've gone, okay, the struggle is the point. So, it's supposed to be like that,
Learn to Love the Bomb is the other one. That's a Zach Galifianakis. Learn to love the bomb, and no matter what happens, you're going to have a blast. He laughs so hard when he sucks. And he gets more joy out of bombing than he does succeeding. So how can you lose? I try to keep that in mind.
And and just in terms of that loving the bomb, and there's I guess with these caliber of cast, I can't imagine, but in the edit suite, the number of takes, take 5, take 6, so many different choices. You mentioned before about moving the opening kind of budget.
Yeah.
Were there other moments? Did you feel that a lot of it was open to being made in the edit?
Not much actually. It was always, the rest of the movie was pretty tight, and we stuck to the script. And I was thinking, someone asked about outtakes. There's almost no outtakes, and I've never had that before, where we really knew what we were doing and shot what we wanted to use and kept it in. I have a great editor, John Paul, who is so good at always leaning on the scenes to make sure they're, not that they're the right length and the right pacing, and helped come up with some of the stuff. But, it was pretty.
It's true. I did think of it yesterday because someone asked us, and we sort of commiserated to each other about this moment we lost. And I thought, we didn't lose any scenes.
Yeah.
We literally complained because we'd lost 30 seconds between Benedict and a kid at the back of the plane. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we could sort of.
It was pretty much what Tony wrote. I was what's the right word? Respectful of it, because I remember just going, oh my God, I can see this movie, and as I turned the page, so it was nice.
A lot of filmmakers listen to our podcast, writers, actors, and things. If you were going to teleport back into the past or whatever and tell yourself, a couple of things as a younger filmmaker that you should have done or to look out for, can you think now, looking back, there's 1 or 2 things you would love to have known, let's say?
I think, and I wasn't too bad at it, but I do remember at times, I think it's like I worried too much.
I was just going to say that.
And also I worried about the wrong things. Sometimes I think if I get asked for advice, I'm usually like, forget the business and focus on your craft. And that'll take, because I think sometimes we get caught up on what the business is doing and how we react to it. And I'm just like, go be the best craftsman that you can, craftsperson at what you do. So I think when I stopped worrying and just go be a good writer and don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
I got much, much better, much quicker,
One of my mentors was Sidney Pollack, and I realized he said to me that I realized that I sort of shared this with him later on in life, but he said, I've never done a film where I wasn't trying to get out of it 2 weeks before.
Yes.
I mean, really trying, like having the lawyers look in. He said, not a single one. Tootsie, Out of Africa, not one. I was like, Sidney, how is that possible? You're like, because one, I always, forgot how to do it. Like I felt like and two, I just would forget how much the collaborators, how not alone with it you are. And when you get there that day, you'll have amazing writers, you'll have amazing cast, and you don't have to carry the whole thing, because the really weird kind of stress about it and the weird kind of panic that I think, I guess a lot of directors, not all of them, there's some very self-confident directors, but I really understand why. Because I always lose my mind in prep, and it's just like, don't worry, you're not alone, and that's good advice, I think. It's really good.
Just the very last question, is there anything from the Roses that you'll take forward onto your next project? Anything you learned specifically from this film?
10 seconds.
I think just working with collaborating really is what I learned. I mean, because it was a real comedy collaboration in a way. And I think, I don't know that I learned more other than I learned that's a great experience,
Yeah, I've mostly just been reaffirmed that, it's about the team that you put together. And if you really don't slack off on that, and casting and crew hiring, every single bit, once you're all there on the ship, it's fun. But if you haven't thought that through, and someone shows up who doesn't quite fit, or didn't join the cult, exactly. It can be
won't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for your time. I think Roses comes out on August 29th.
So I think
tomorrow. Yeah.
And wish you all the best for it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
There we go. That was Connor Buru and Francis Anand talking with Tony McNamara and Jay Roach. There we go. Fantastic. Cool. Well, there we go. You guys did another sterling job. Hope you had a fantastic time. Any sort of parting takeaways on where we're at in the industry at the moment, going into the autumn?
Well, I've had a great time doing these podcasts with Francis, and obviously, Dom, you and I catch up a lot about this kind of stuff. But I've also been having a secondary almost interview with Francis after, just like we're chopping it up, we're talking about everything. Obviously, Francis has worked on some, decent budget films, maybe not as high as Jay Roach, etc. But Francis has, done a sterling job with Escape from Pretoria. And so I've been learning lots talking to him as well. And we've just been talking about the industry and writing. And again, just how we're balancing everything, surviving amongst staying in the game, and the different ways that we're doing that, the way our friends are doing that, you're doing that, Dom, Giles, we all are. We're all becoming more well-versed filmmakers, hopefully, because we've had to learn to do a lot of different jobs in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a quick conversation with Francis before you joined as well, Connor, and just on how hard it is to get a good script made at the moment. Like it's so challenging. There's a lot of pushback in terms of what cast levels get films greenlit. There's a huge amount of fear in terms of certain genres and the market in general at the moment, and it's a very, very tough time for independent filmmakers.
Yeah, I mean, it's every few years has been the case. I think streaming and what that has added and then taken away. I remember 10, 15 years ago, streaming's great, fantastic, digital gives us a platform to distribute. Actually, it's opened up the market in a way that has made it oddly more difficult because of the elements, and also those streaming platforms have closed down. A few years ago, well, not a few, maybe a decade ago, you could sell your film to Netflix, any kind of quality, didn't matter, you sell it. Now, obviously, they're making their own content. It's a much tighter, closed shop. So getting the film financed has become more difficult. Filmmakers being what we are, will always find 50 different ways to chew cheese, as it were. So we will make it work, but it's definitely more difficult, and there's not an implosion, but there's somewhat of a temporary contraction in terms of, number of casts and in terms of budgets and in terms of these kind of elements. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we navigate that as independents.
Indeed. Adapt or die, I suppose, is the name of the game.
Amen.
Yeah, and I think being able to focus on what you can control, as always, something you talk about a lot. It's just, if you can't necessarily get the feature made at that point, it's like, maybe you can be writing, maybe you can be focusing on the next film, the next pitch, the next deck, whatever it is, to just keep going. And, you know, Francis was telling me how many projects he has going. You know, over the years, it's not, you don't put all your eggs in one basket at any given time. You've got to have multiple plates spinning, because you have to be ready when the opportunity comes. Things change, the industry changes, the wants of these streamers and production companies change. So having multiple projects that you're passionate about, I'm not saying just do a scattergun approach, but, you know, just starting to build a slate of projects that you really care about, I think is a really wise choice.
Very much so.
Yeah, kind of acting like producers a little bit. You know, they're often used to having us as filmmakers just sitting there at the end of a tentacle, you know, holding on. It's like, yeah, but it's not uncommon for a producer to have 5, 6, 7 projects and keep those plates spinning. Filmmakers, you know, directors, we're going to have to start thinking in that kind of way, not only to survive, but also to, you know, spread the projects across along the run. So yeah, it's the new filmmaker kind of schedule.
Indeed, some good thoughts to finish on. Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you two on the podcast as the days go on.
Oh, have you got more safaris booked and everything?
We also do weddings, we can bar mitzvahs, we can do birthdays, we can do whatever. We're free for hire.
I'm looking forward to your new reality TV show, if I'm honest. Like that's what the fans are after.
Sign me up.
But you've both earned very honorary positions on the Filmmakers podcast end of year quiz. So we'll certainly look forward to seeing you there as well.
I'll be studying in advance. But no, thank you, Dom. It's been a real pleasure. I've really enjoyed these past few weeks, jumping in, trying to fill yours and Giles' issues. It's been a lot of fun, and I've learned lots. And yeah, if you ever need to call in the dynamic duo, just hit us up on the hotline.
We are here, man. Yeah, CVs at the ready.
Get you some capes ready for next time.
We'll fight over Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
As the outro famously goes, we will see you next Tuesday for next week's episode of the Filmmakers podcast. Thank you for listening, everybody. Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.